You can apply for a ballot to vote by mail up to 10 days before the election. And so the deadline for that will be on July 31st. This will give you ample time to mail or drop it off in person if you want to drop it off personally. We have provided the links to all these services on Mshale.com. So the format for this forum is as follows. We will start off with candidates' opening statements for 1 minute each. This will be followed by the questions from Mr. Mohammed and myself. Candidates have 1.5 minutes to answer the questions. Candidates will also have 1.5 minutes in the end for closing statements. I will now hand it over to Mr. Mohammed.
Welcome all of you, and it is our pleasure to host you tonight. Let us get started with the 1 minute opening statement. Please tell us how long you have been a resident of the 6th ward and why you are a better choice than your opponent. I will start alphabetically by last name, so we will begin with AJ Awad. AJ.
Thanks for the participants joining us, the candidates. So I'm originally from Virginia, so my time on and off, I was raised in North Side. I moved here in June, so I recently here in the ward. But honestly, I think when we talk about this gotcha question here about a lot of people that think about when candidates should have been here or not here. I'm answering the call of really honestly the Somali mothers and the Somali community at large. So for me, I've always been connected to my community. I'm fortunate to say that I came from Virginia to find my identity as a Somali individual here in the States, assimilated into the culture. And I'm fortunate enough to say that through the relationships I've made with a lot of individuals from the South Side, a lot of individuals from Cedar Riverside, to all the people that really supported me out through the years through my undergrad. I'm a fortune for having that amazing shop in Cedar. Really is what brings me back to say that I got to give back to that community. So in short, though, to answer the question, I transparently been living here for about since June.
Thank you, AJ Awad, and I would like Cindy to let us the next person who is in alphabetical order.
I believe our next candidate will be Mr. Bihi.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity. My name is Abdirizak Bihi. I live and work in the ward for the past 24 years. Last 21 years, I live in Cedar Riverside High-Rise Plaza or Riverside Plaza. That's where my family and my kids were born, and that's what I do most of my work and my office is. The reason I am running is that I have done so much work in the community, in the ward, primarily in Cedar Riverside and Suud, and to help the new Americans and mostly East Africans and others to get jobs, to get social services, to advocate for them. And most of them, last 10 years, I've been focusing, partnering with organizations to bring skills such as CDL, construction, healthcare, to become an electrician, you know, and also I partnered with Metro Transit and many others to get so many from the community to really into good paying jobs, union jobs. And I think and the reason I'm running is to have that platform to bring people together, because I've been bringing people of different faiths and different cultures together the last 18 years on a monthly basis. So I'm a bridge builder, and I think I can bring everyone in Ward 6 to really address homelessness, opioid drugs in our youth and community, and also number one issue, housing, low income housing in the community. So I'm glad that I'm running with such a great candidates, and that's the reason I'm running. I'm also a longtime resident of the neighborhood.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Bihi. Our next candidate is Mr. A.K. Hassan.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And I'm A.K. Hassan, Park Board Commissioner, representing the District 3 and the Vice President of the Minneapolis Park Board for 2 years. I lived in Ventura Village Ventura Village neighborhood for 12 years since 2008. I am proud to be a resident of the 6th Ward and running as the 6th Ward City Council member for the 6th Ward. I grew up in Ventura Village neighborhood, which is 14th and 22nd and 15th. I am looking forward for the debate tonight. And as a Park Board Commissioner, some of the things that I'm proud to have led during my time, it was spearheaded historic investment in youth, increasing program over by $1 million. I was successful in securing a $2 million donation for development on new parkland. I helped lead selection of the process of the current superintendent, Albinger, the first African-American male to be representing the park board as a superintendent. And I do believe we need to invest in holistic approach to community safety, like violence intervention initiatives and unarmed response to non-criminal calls. We will achieve safety through investment in the community, not through more policing. I promise to fight gentrification to keep neighborhoods livable and keep public housing public. I'm also committed as your next city council member to fight for solutions and funding to help support those suffering for addiction. And thanks for having me, and I'm looking forward for the debate tonight.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hassan. Our next candidate is Ms. Nebiha Mohammed.
First, I want to thank Mshale for organizing this forum, and I want to thank all of my fellow candidates who are in attendance tonight. And of course, I want to thank the residents of the Minneapolis Ward 6 who are watching tonight. My name is Nebiha Mohammed, and I'm running for City Council. I've been a resident of the ward for 6 years. I'm sorry, my apologies, 4 years. I've lived in Cedar Riverside Towers. I want to say that I know my fellow candidates have taken an issue with me saying that I'm the best. I was not saying I'm better than anyone, but I'm the most qualified candidate for Minneapolis City Council because I'm the most educated. I'm pursuing my second master's degree after getting the first one 12 years ago. I'm the most experienced, as I have leadership experience dating back more than 18 years ago during my military service. I'm a small business owner, and I understand the many challenges that face our businesses. I'm a hands-on manager, and I take practical approaches to problem solving. And as such, I do not accept status quo, but instead I look for alternative ideas and thoughts to creating enduring solutions, especially at this time, at this pivotal time that we're in Minneapolis. I'm a parent of 8-year-old twins that I'm raising in Cedar Riverside, and I know the struggles of raising them and finding enrichment programs for them. I'm a progressive Democrat, and as someone who grew up in New York City, I see diversity in our Ward 6 as an asset, not a liability. It is for these specific reasons that I am running for City Council, and I'm politely asking for the residents of Ward 6 to vote for me. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mohammed. Our next candidate is Mr. Suud Olat.
Hi, Cindy, you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cindy, Tom Gitter, Mahmoud Farah, and Paul, and everyone at the Mshale for hosting us this wonderful forum tonight. And I am humbled and honored to join you here. As I said, my name is Suud Olat. I moved to this country 8 years ago. I was settled in Nashville, Tennessee. 5 years ago, I moved to this beautiful city of Minneapolis, and I started a new life here. And all of those 5 years, I was a resident in the city of Minneapolis, particularly the Ward 6, which I'm now a candidate for the City Council, the vacant seat. As I said, I am a candidate because I saw real challenges in our community. And as you all know, significant number of the Somali American and East African community at the call home Ward 6, and it's extremely important that we have someone who can advocate for the needs of this community, especially the elderly and the children. Majority of families, especially the East African community, are households with children. They need support, they need education. Last year, I was a recipient of Health and Human Services Young Changemaker Award for all the services and contributions that I make since I moved to this country. All those make me an ideal candidate for this city council, and majority of the Somali American community, from faith to business to some people who worked at the city of Minneapolis, endorsed my candidacy, and they think like I will be an asset for this community, and I can make a difference in the lives of diverse people of Ward 6. And that's why I'm a candidate. And it's important that we remember it doesn't matter which zip code you live, as long as you have a vision and mission to change those lives. And I have a vision for the city of Minneapolis, the residents of Ward 6, and that's why I'm a candidate. And thank you very much again for hosting tonight.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Olat. Our next candidate is Mr. Jamal Osman.
I want to thank Mohammed and Cindy and Mshale for hosting us. My name is Jamal Osman. I'm from Minneapolis. I lived in Minnesota for 21 years. I lived in Ward 6 for 15 years, and I work in Ward 6. I have been working in the community for 15 years, and I have been an advocate for the community. When it comes to housing, I have been an advocate for resident housing. I work one of the largest nonprofit affordable housing in the Midwest. I wake up every morning and I fight for the residents' rights, to protect their rights and to protect rent rights. Also, I'm also a mental health educator. I help those individuals that are struggling with mental health and educating the community, getting rid of the stigma that we have, especially in the East African community. And also I have been upfront with youth homelessness. You know, I have proudly worked with Hannibal County Coordinated Interest System, where we housed individuals that are either in the shelter or couch hopping in the community, help them find housing. Also, at the same time, work with them through the housing. It's not easy just handing out the keys, here's the key, they need services. Those individuals bring a lot of challenges with them, including mental health, which is huge in our community, especially in Ward 6. So I have been working in the community. I'm raising my family here. I have 5 beautiful children that I have. This is home. This is the community I really care about. And I encourage Ward 6 residents to make the right decision, someone who has been upfront and fighting for the resident, attending every national night out, attending every issue that community have, and making sure to tackle those issues. And I'm proudly to say that I have been serving my community, and I will continue serving my community if I'm elected.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Osman. Our next candidate is Mr. Alex Palacios.
Hi there. Thank you so much, Cindy. Thank you so much, Mohammed and Mshale, for hosting us. And thank you to my fellow candidates and everybody watching. My name is Alex Palacios. I use they, them pronouns. And, you know, I am an immigrant who is all too familiar with having to adjust to a new culture. I came to the United States when I was 6 years old. And I have lived in Minneapolis for 4 years, 2.5 of which I have lived in the Phillips West community. As an Afro-Latinx person and an LGBT person, I am all too familiar with stigma and social backlash and generational trauma that can come with that as well. And of course, I work in public health at the Aliveness Project, which I'm so proud to work at. And I know what it's like to navigate health systems. I know what it's like to navigate social systems. And I know what it's like to build community through education and advocacy. I'm here before you because I don't think I'm the best, but I do think I am best suited. And that has to do with my lived experience. It also has to do with the fact that my education comes directly from the community. And I am prepared to take everything I have learned to serve you, to amplify your voice, and to be the kind of city council person that you deserve. So thank you so much for listening to us all. And I look forward to tonight. Thank you.
Right, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Palacios. Our next candidate is Mr. Scheunemann.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joshua Scheunemann. I have been a resident of Ward 6 since November, but I was born and raised in St. Paul. on the edge of the Como neighborhood. And I've been a community organizer for well over almost half my life on various social issues throughout here in the cities. I feel like I'm the best candidate for the position due to my dedication and hardworking skills to listening to the community first and not having big money influence how policy should be run in the city. So I believe I'm one of the strong candidates for the Ward 6 City Council seat. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Scheunemann. And last but not least is Ms. Saciido Shaie.
Saciido Shaie, go ahead.
Thank you for having me, Cindy and Mahmoud and the entire Mshale. My name is Saciido Shaie, and I am a proud resident of Minneapolis for over 20-something years, since 1998, and I live in Ward 6 for the last 3 months, I would say. I am a mother of 3 beautiful teenagers who, of course, drive me crazy, but inspire me every day. If I can survive raising hormonal teenagers, I can survive anything. You know, I am a former member of the Governor's Juvenile Justice Advisory Council, and I am the founder of UMA Project, a nonprofit organization that's, among many other things, provides a platform for youth. I'm currently serving the Youth Global Leadership Coalition, and I am running for Ward 6 City Council because I am qualified and experienced. My resume speaks for itself. I am a former member, former small business owner. I am a community advocate, an organizer, a policymaker, and a change maker. Anyone who knows me knows how passionate and dedicated I am. I am genuine and I care about people on a deep level. I want Ward 6 residents to thrive. This is why I am running. I want to continue serving my community, and I really hope you vote for me. I promise I won't let you down. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, candidates, for your opening remarks, and we shall dive into our first round of questions. Now, as a friendly reminder, we do have 1.5 minutes to answer each question, and we will be monitoring the times closely. And so to start off with our first question, the recent death of George Floyd has garnered international attention, particularly on racial justice and police reform. The city of Minneapolis is actively taking steps to ensure that law enforcement is able to serve within the community effectively. What is your stand on the recent city charter amendment submitted to the Charter Commission by the Minneapolis City Council to remove the requirement that the city maintain a police department? Mr. Awad?
Thank you for that question. My position on this has been very clear. Policing in America is deeply rooted in white supremacy, so we really do need a complete transformation and overhaul of the system. The current steps that the City Council is taking are really good, productive ones. The only thing that I fear is that we might just let time pass by and there's just reform that we just relapse back to and not actually the transformation that we're expecting. We need to have more officers and more public health officials in the public safety sector. We need more social workers involved in there. And when it's nonviolent crimes, we need to have a partial disarmament framework, which means officers that are not armed are the ones that are responding. This is, from all studies, shows that this is the best way forward. And this is going to be a system that's in the image of the community. No one is arguing, I think, when we talk about defund, dismantle, and ultimately abolish the police, to not have any public safety frameworks. However, we need to re-envision the way we think about governing ourselves and keeping safety. And that means really honestly tackling the root causes of crime, which is, housing insecurity and food insecurity. When we're talking about things like an economic disparity. So if we really tackle those issues at the heart of it, then the new public safety system could actually thrive and survive. But if we're not going to attack those issues at the heart, then we're basically dooming this new system to fail, and then pretty much keeping the white suppressed racist system, systematic racism of policing in place.
Right, thank you so much. And now I will hand it over to my co-host, Mr. Mohammed.
Yes, and I would like to let in Abdirizak Bihi to answer the same question.
Thank you. This question is very, very important, and it has been important throughout all our debates we have been through, and it's been important since time began. Police brutality is real, and it's growing across the nation, and it has been very bad in our city. I've been lucky to be a part of it. Back then, there was a gentleman named Abu Jailani who was shot 45 times. He was my neighbor in my building in Cedar Riverside. He had a mental health issue. That helped me and many others in the community back then in 2003 to really ask for federal mediation. And we went through that process with the gentleman from Washington, D.C. for 2.5 years. It did not do much to change the police department. There were so many reform meetings and agendas that I personally have been involved over the years, including trying to change them by engaging the Somali or East African community to become police officers. We've done everything on the book. One thing I know, reform doesn't work. Minneapolis Police Department has a union that's more powerful than any other chief or city or mayor or anyone. Bob Kroll and the union must go. And that to happen, it takes a lot of legislation and other things. But yes, I do agree with the city council. We need to defund the police department. We need, and we have to understand the word defund. Defund means, it doesn't mean, I hope, it doesn't mean that we suddenly say no police officers. We know what chaos is. We have seen chaos. As of now, right now, the violence in our city, whether it's a carjacking, whether it's a homicides, whether it's a shootings, whether it's you name it, burglars, harming innocent people like seniors, is actually going through the roof. It's going through the roof. And everyone is concerned about safety, and safety is #1 concern for me, for the residents of. I'm a father. I live in Cedar Riverside. I live with my daughters, like many of my neighbors, like many neighbors in Ward 6 and City of Minneapolis. Yes, I do agree, but we need to use defunding as a weapon to change. And if the process is taking 1 year, what I want to do is, as a city council person, if elected, I don't want the city council alone in a closed room to decide the fate of the security of our city. I want town hall meetings. I want us as residents, as families, as people in Ward 6 and Minneapolis City to be part of the process. And we need to be clear how this process—
Excuse me, sir, please. All right, thank you so much, Mr. Bihi. We just wanted to remind the candidates once again, we do have 1.5 minutes.
Thank you. And I would like to let in the next candidate, AK Hassan.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Well, the death of George Floyd is a clear signpost in the ongoing struggle for the civil rights, and we will be negligent not hear the calls from the community to bring real change to public safety in Minneapolis. MBD is broken and needs to be fixed, and it cannot be fixed without the city's process. The cities across the nation use typically 35 to 40% of their full operating budget on policing. This is endemic of a system that's not only outdated and unchecked, but rooted in white supremacy and the over-policing of Black and brown bodies from the time of Jim Crow era and slavery itself. I fully support the charter amendment process to remove MBD as a charter department and to be replaced with a new Department of Community Safety and Violence Prevention. This is the first step to defunding MBD. The director of the new department should not be a former or current police officer, but instead should be rooted restorative justice and public health approach so we can achieve real community safety. And as a Park Board Vice President, I spearheaded a historic investment in our youth, increasing, and I want to continue that as your next city council member for the 6th one.
Thank you, and I would like to welcome the next candidate, Nebiha Mohammed.
All right, we shall move on to the next candidate, and we'll circle back to Ms. Mohammed if we, towards the end, if she's able to connect with us. Mr. Olat?
Thank you very much. I think as a council member and someone who cares about this beautiful city of Minneapolis, I will support the abolition and dismantling of the systemic racism within the police department. And I believe our current Chief Arando, is the right person for the job. We know one time he even sued the police department for relocating funds, meant to housing, social services that meant to improve the lives of essential to the lives of people in our communities. First, we need to dismantle that racism and systemic. Just the change name will not bring any solutions. We need real solutions, and everyone in our leadership who has power to step in, from ordinary citizens to our leaders, our business people, and everyone. We need to stop criminalizing mental health, homelessness, and putting them in the system. We need to reimagine our city so that our kids are not scared when they see the police who are sworn to protect them, that our cops and the police, the peace officers that we'll have in the future are now overworking. We give them the training that they need and allocate more resources to de-escalate and provide training for our officers so they have the support that they need when it comes to dealing with these communities.
Thank you.
We need real changes.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Olat. And now moving along to Mr. Osman.
Thank you. We all know that Minneapolis police is broken, and it has been broken for a long time. It's an issue that affects us, especially people of color, immigrants, and something has to change. I believe that City Council has a responsibility to take action. I do welcome this action they have taken so far, but let me be clear that this resolution does allow the retention of the police. What I want to do is change how policing is done in our community. I want to reimagine the police. I want to make sure police are working for us, same as teachers and social workers that wake up every morning the way they work for us. Some of the solutions that I have are, police are too powerful. We want to make sure that this is a community-led coalition. We have to start a community-led coalition and making sure that we are able to fire those police that are crossing the line and killing us. George Floyd was a wake-up call for all of us and internationally. So right now, the whole nation is looking at us, and we want to make sure we want to change how the policing is done. That means hiring more people of color. That means having community residency requirement, police that work in Minneapolis.
Thank you so much, Mr. Osman. Now we're going to move along to Mr. Palacios.
Hi there. Thank you for the question, Cindy. And with all due respect to my fellow candidate, Jamal, this was not a wake-up call to me. This systemic racism has been a part of my life for a very long time. And it was not a wake-up call. It was the perpetuation of further trauma to our community. And let me be clear that what we're looking at is this charter and allowing this charter to continue, which I support so long as the community is centered, gives us the opportunity to get rid of the police union, to get rid of Bob Kroll, and therefore being able to start to restructure our entire criminal justice system, not just defunding the police and creating a new system of safety, but we're talking about the very first step in what needs to be a criminal justice system that is overhauled, because right now there's nothing just about it. We're talking about probation, we're talking about parole, we're talking about reintegration of people into our community. We're talking about simply just public defenders versus prosecutors, right? How people start as public defenders, and because suddenly that money is sweetened over that way, people move that way. We need to make sure that we're overhauling the entire criminal justice system, and this is just the first part. And again, it all needs to be community-centered. From this resolution until, sorry, go ahead. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Palacios. Moving on to Mr. Scheunemann.
Thank you for that question. So I do fully support the charter amendment. And just like what many of the other candidates have said, this is just a first step towards working towards a new criminal justice system. We need to defund. We need to look at the police union that does have way too much power. I have a full plan on my website, joshforward6.com/policing. But just some highlights of it is cleaning the gutters, so cleaning out, kicking out Bob Core, and revamping how we get these people onboarded, and then making sure that they're responsible for their actions on duty. So making them carry liability insurance, so taxpayers aren't burdened by the multi-million-dollar lawsuits that even in this time of pandemic, when we're all about clinching, we need to make sure that every dollar and cent we can save. And that's a huge money saver right there. And then the third part is defunding and allocating that funds to community programs, social workers, and revamping the whole system from bail to prosecution, starting with the end of bail bonds completely. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Scheunemann. And now moving along to Ms. Shaie.
Well, I believe that public safety and justice issues impact us all. As the mother of 18-year-old son, I am just as scared and concerned as every mother. We need to fundamentally rethink how public safety is done. I am a firm believer in defunding, dismantling, and rebuilding the Minneapolis Police Department. So yes, I agree with the city's decision. Defunding means reallocating resources to hiring mental health workers and social workers. The solution definitely lies within the community. And so what we have seen lately, from George Floyd to many other individuals and people of Black men and our Black boys, I reject that. And so yes, definitely I am with the city. How we will do that? We'll definitely stand as a community, as mothers, to make sure that what we have seen should not happen and does not happen anymore.
Right, thank you so much. Now we're gonna circle back to Ms. Mohammed. Are you able to join us?
I would like to ask you the next question, which is a 2000 study by the University of Minnesota titled "The Diversity of Gentrification" found that 40% of Minneapolis neighborhoods showed signs of gentrification between 2000 and 2015, with Cedar Riverside and Ventura Village, which are both in Ward 6. In line to follow the trend, what one idea are you going to bring to the table? Are you going to bring to the council that has not already been tabled to address this, to ensure there is affordable housing for Ward 6 residents? And I would like to start with AJ Awad.
Thank you. That's a very important question and a really good one to ask. The core of my campaign really is honestly on three major issues, and public housing is one of them. And for me, when we talk about affordable housing in the city, it's sad to say that The metrics that they use to determine affordable housing, given and suggested by the Met Council, is really what is fueling gentrification in our community. The two things that I see that are very, very important in combating that and making sure that our community stays as diverse as it has been is bringing forth the universal rent control that I'm proposing that would cap rent increases to 3%. Some people might say here today that there has already been that idea, and the city council has said that they can't do anything without state preemptions, right? And that is partially true. State law does preempt rent control ordinances, but there's a clear exceptions for home rules charter cities like Minneapolis. So what we need to do is honestly have the guts and the courage to bring that back up for motion, bring that city ordinance and let it be put on a ballot, just like we're trying to reform the police department by making a charter amendment. We can do that same exact process, but I don't really trust anyone that says that I want to do rent control, but I'm going to wait for the state to do it. So if people are really serious about combating gentrification, they need to have a candidate that's actually going to put that up and make the first issue that he brings on the floor for a resolution in City Hall. The other thing, honestly, is expanding public housing and making sure that our communities are not being privatized by private interests. But I'll keep my answer short and just answer it by saying that I plan on fully making sure rent control comes up.
Thank you. And I would like to move to the next candidate, Abdirizak Bihi.
We have to understand and see that right now we are having tents everywhere, including one of the biggest homeless tent in the country, in our city. And what is fueling not only gentrification is part of the things that are fueling homelessness in our community. And we also have to understand 40% of those homeless people in those tents have jobs. They couldn't afford to continue to pay growing and rising rents. So we need an actual ordinance that really not only caps the rent rise, but also looks at the income and of those certain geographical communities and also the rent. Also, the other thing we need to look at, it's not about affordable housing. Right now, we need to talk about low income. We need to talk about building and creating more low income housing in order to get people back into their homes. Gentrification is real and it's happening. The only one of the ways we can stop is rental cap, also to stop developers that are developing affordable housing that's really bringing a lot more people in it. And the other thing I would like to mention is we need to have a cap on those developments that develop certain percentage of their development as a low income, but after 5 years,
Thank you, Abdirizak. Thank you, Abdirizak
so we
Bihi.
need to have a cap on that too.
Thank you, Abdirizak Bihi, and I would like to move to the next candidate, AK Hassan.
Well, thank you. I think that's a great question. As we all navigate a real housing crisis in the midst of a global pandemic, where residents may be a paycheck away from losing their home, it's a further eliminate that access to affordable housing is a basic human right. I do think protecting our communities from gentrification means making sure our neighbors are not cost burdened with rent. I promise to protect public housing in Minneapolis and work to pass rent control by setting caps on rent increases in the city so our neighborhoods remains livable for all residents despite income level. And I advocated this as a former president of my neighborhood, Ventura Village, which is what one of the neighborhoods that you mentioned. Public housing is a huge community asset in the sixth ward, one that incoming council member will have to advocate for in a strong and intentional way. And I do think that I have the best intention as a former neighborhood who understands what the needs of the neighborhood. And I'll continue that as your next city council member to advocate. And as a brother, Adrian mentioned too, that we have to talk about the law that prohibits the city and invest in lobbying to make sure that we pass and work with our legislators so that rent control is something that we are able to make as city council members, that we can make and change the ordinance, the city ordinance.
Thank you, AK Hassan, and I would like to move to Nebiha Mohammed.
That's an interesting question that you've posed.
We are also expecting interesting answer as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So with gentrification, every person, every party who is from the citizens to the city council to the mayor, everyone in legislative further up in the state, they all have a key role in ensuring that gentrification does not displace the tenants who are currently living in the neighborhood. So what we do understand here is that market rate apartments have not been built in Ward 6 overall. Within market rate apartments have not been built in Ward 6 for 40 years. What would I do to bring new development? Sorry. Let's look at it like this. Gentrification is a problem in our neighborhoods. We need to ensure that all parties involved, that they are on the same page, that we involve the local tenants and we involve the developers, and that we do not allow them to build developments without having mixed income units. Where I know currently it's at 10% rates, we need to increase that, where we include people of the lower income spectrum, not just low income, but below that we include units there. 10% goes to them, another 10% goes to the working, another 10% goes to middle. And then whatever units are left can go to market rate apartments.
Thank you, Nebiha. Thank you so very much. I would like to ask the same question, or he was hearing to answer, to give the chance to answer this question. Suud Olat.
Yeah, thank you very much. I strongly believe that every person that lives in Ward 6 should have safe, accessible, affordable housing. And I believe housing is a right, not a luxury. I will be committing fighting to pass something that other cities have done so that we can adopt. And I will bring unique so that our city can pass Bill of Rights so that tenants can have a say when those decisions has to be made. When the influx of money to prevent gentrification is when those rich people come, they displace brown and black people. The best thing we can do is to have a tenant to organize themselves, have a say in our city hall. So you asked about the question about what you can bring that has not been brought on the table already. Right now, everyone in Ward 6 who is eligible for will count on me that I will bring our city to adopt a Bill of Rights that other cities in our country has done. So I will be a council member who will advocate that we pass those Bill of Rights so that our residents can have a say when those decisions that are about to be made. And those rich people, when they come and their aim is to gentrify and displace brown and black people, we will have a council member who will bring tenants together. So
thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Olat. And I would like to move to Jamal Osman.
Thank you. As someone who has worked and is still working for the last 15 years, affordable housing, low-income housing, Section 8 housing, one thing I will do right away is to protect the residents that we have right now. There's a lot of landlords and money private managers that are evicting people for absolutely no reason. The reason our kids are on the streets, are on drugs, it has something to do with the landlords. We need to protect the ones we have already. I'm getting calls, and I have been protecting my resident that I work for the longest I can remember. I'm proud to say that the organization I work with, I came up a solution that will solve the individual to rent again, so they don't have a bad record on there, and that's called mutual lease termination. Mutual lease termination, it's way that we get rid of eviction. We want to make sure that individual, if it's not the right place for them to live, they can go and rent again. And that's something I'm proud to say I have worked on it. I want to protect the residents we have right now. And also I want to provide the opportunity for the investors to come to our Ward 6. Downtown, uptown, housing are booming everywhere. We want to make sure we are bringing those investors here. And housing is everything. If you have a house and if you have housing, it will be easier for you to look for a job. But if you're homeless, then
Thanks.
Then it will be super difficult for you to have a.
Thanks, Jamal, and I would like to let in Alex.
Thank you, Mohammed, for your question. And you asked for novel ideas. You asked for ideas that haven't been shelved and haven't been tabled. Well, the idea that I have is naturally occurring housing with along with a Section 8.2 home ownership program. What does this mean? It means that we're building housing, right, that isn't beholden to this 30% figure that was, set up in the 60s and 70s, that is just not affordable for Ward 6 residents. We're gonna lower that percentage down, and we're gonna set up housing that is available along transit routes, along transit corridors, make sure that we're investing in green housing that saves money in the end. We can do things like, community solar gardens, which reduce the price of utilities and make housing more affordable. But along with that, we also want to make sure that there is a path to home ownership. That's going to be incredibly important, so that we can make sure that our residents have a place to go that is easily accessible to them, so that they can have and build community wealth right here in Ward 6, right here, so that they can leave something for their children and their grandchildren. That's how you build community wealth, and that's the idea that I will push forward. Thank you.
Thank you for saving me 7 seconds. And also, I would like to welcome again Jadhas to answer the same question.
Yes, thank you, Mahmoud, for that question. So, as someone that has experienced homelessness in my life and has slept in a tent, I believe that rent control is a great option for doing that, even though it has been tabled. And it, just like what AJ Ovid said, it's having the balls to do it, is making sure that, hey, we can as a city, because how the city is set up, we can do that. And making sure that those developers that are pumping money into campaigns that are then in turn not actually gonna do anything, making sure that they kind of take that out of the process too. Also, making note that this land is not ours. This land was stolen from us. This is Native American land too. And make sure that we don't kick out the people that land that we stole from, that others may have just done in recent weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you so very much for saving me 30 seconds. And I would like to ask the last person or last candidate for this round, Saciido Shaie.
I believe housing is a fundamental and basic right, but homelessness is a devastating issue in our city. We know that for a fact. I believe that we must increase the availability of affordable housing. I also believe public housing should stay public. I believe that gentrification does not happen in a vacuum. It's assisted by the city in the form of tax abatement, tax increment financing. It's called TIF, and development permits. I will commit to fight this corruption at the City Hall. Diverting subsidies from developers to the neighborhood groups themselves is another idea that I think would work. But definitely, I also do not support any initiatives to transfer ownership of Minneapolis public housing properties to private entities. I don't support that, but definitely I support public housing as a must for all, because I know when I moved to my neighborhood, it was $900 that I rented in my 3-apartment bedroom. Today I'm paying $1,600. If they add one more 100, I will be a homeless as well.
Thank you, Saciido. And I would like to hand it over to Cindy for the final round of questions.
All right, thank you so much, Mahmoud. We're in the final stretch here. My last question has to do with budgeting. So one of the main things you will need to deal with right away, if elected in a few weeks, is the $156 million budget shortfall that the city faces. Mayor Jacob Frey has proposed using the city's cash reserves, far-lofts, and laying off 40 employees to handle the situation. What are your thoughts on this approach, Mr. Awad?
So thank you for that question. It's a really good question. To me, you know, I think that's really more important than having math skills. I mean, I went to law school because I'm not the best math whiz, to be honest. But in all honesty, when we're talking about, you know, budget reductions, if you're somebody from the business community, that's something that obviously you would tout as something that would be great for you. But what the residents of Ward 6 really need more than anything is, in a time like this, what priorities are we budgeting for, right? And for me, my focus is fully centered on making sure the interests of the Ward 6 residents and generally the health of Minneapolis residents overall are actually being met. So for me, I'm always looking at how the budget is being allocated within the departments and in the projects that these departments fund. Minneapolis currently uses a programmatic budgeting model, which pretty much they look at each program in each budget. So for me, that's really what I'm going to be looking at. I'm looking at, you know, taking some of that bloated money from the police department and reallocating in specific places where there may be specific shortfalls and et cetera. But to me, the next representative for Ward 6 needs to be an individual more than anything that is deeply committed to making sure the interest of the ward is reflected in the budget overall. And that's what I aim to do.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Awad. Now moving along to Mr. Bihi.
Yeah, it's not really easy to discuss right now the elimination of people who have been working so hard. But there are departments that has invested so much money into technology, obviously to reduce the number of people working in that department. Parking meters, we've invested a lot of money to upgrade and update our parking meters. And still we have so many employees making sure in the old way, the same way as the old way, making sure that they patrol and monitor. Why in the first place are we investing so much money in to upgrade our parking? You know, right now you have an app to put money in your parking meter. We don't have those quarters anymore. I think that's one place to look at is the parking department of that reinforces the parking meters is one place to look at. Again, it's a difficult time for our city and it's not easy to point out to certain people, but I'll work on that.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Bihi. Now moving along to Mr. Hassan.
Thank you so much. I do think that's a great question and a question that needs to be answered. I think I'm the only candidate here who's qualified to do this job as a vice chair of the admin and finance of the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board, which is over $120 million budget, and also a former chair of my neighborhood, Ventura Village. I've dealt with up-downs and surpluses. I think I'm the only candidate who can bring the expertise back to the city council and make sure that the budget is reflecting the best interest of the Sixth Ward. As of right now, I serve as a vice chair of the admin and finance of the park board, as I said, and we're dealing with this. We're in $2 million, deficit so far, $2.6 million for the park board because of COVID-19. I think we need someone who knows how to work with budget. And I think prioritizing means making sure we understand what's more important for the neighborhood. Opioid crisis in our community is huge, and specifically Saciido Riverside and Somali community. We have to do something about it, our Native Americans. So to make it short, I am the only candidate who has the best expertise in working with budget. And
what I will do with the homeless and right now with Powder Park.
I'll take that to the city council. I'm excited, and I'm sorry I'm running out of time. But
there's homeless crisis right now. What are you doing about it?
Excuse me, sir. We're staying with the questions asked. All right, thank you so much, Mr. Hassan. Now I'll hand it over to Ms. Mohammed.
Hi, yes, you asked a great question. First, I want to give you a little bit of background about me. I'm currently a manager of a small business. I own a small business currently. I have 2 business degrees. I have worked with development agencies. I have worked with foreign governments. I have worked with nonprofits. I understand balance sheets. I understand profit loss statements. I have personally gone out there and gotten loans, bank loans. I understand the process. I'm schooled in budgeting processes. So understanding Minneapolis budgeting, it's pretty easy. Day one, I know what I'm doing about it. I already understand that Minneapolis overall 2020 budget was 1.6 billion. Of that 1.6 billion, 193 million went to MPD. They have the biggest budget of any other organization of Minneapolis. The city did not have enough funding for affordable housing, hence why we have homeless encampments in the various parks. They did not have after-school programs. They were unable to fund affordable housing, after-school programs and intervention programs for teens, hence why we have high juvenile rates, hence why we have children who are underperforming. Education gap has grown. We need funding. We need programs. We need it today. The city must give back the money. We need to cut the budget of MPD by at least minimum 1/3, just to give back to stabilize our communities, especially in Ward 6, where a heavy immigrant population currently resides.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mohammed. Now moving along to Mr. Olat.
Can you repeat the question one more time, please?
Yes, so the city of Minneapolis is facing a $156 million budget shortfall. Mayor Jacob Frey has proposed using the city's cash reserves, furloughs, and laying off 40 employees to deal with the situation. What are your thoughts on this approach?
Yeah, I think it's not a good idea to lay off the staff and the hardworking staff of the city of Minneapolis. If we need to do something with our budget, we need to go ahead and invest our community's social services. There's a new Americans who are coming to this city and they need services. So getting lay off more staff is not a good idea, and I'm against with this right now. We're in the midst of pandemic, so I don't think it's a good idea to lay off and send home to the staff of the city of Minneapolis. If you wanna cut budget, let's do cut with the police department, which is overfunded, and we need to do something about it. And the best thing we can do now is to get funds from those institutions that have been overfunded and put those money to essential places like rental assistance for our people who are now dealing with the COVID-19 and the crisis in the aftermath of George Floyd death. So I believe to do that and do something about our budget, we need a powerful mayor like cities like New York. Our mayor right now, the current system we have, our mayor is weak. We need a mayor that has teeth so that he can do something about when it comes to from budgeting to public safety to all along. We need a powerful mayor who can make a difference. And right now, the mayor system that we have, it's very weak, and it's bringing more harm than good to our city.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Olat. Now moving along to Mr. Osman.
Thank you. In my 15 years of experience in nonprofit and affordable housing, I work with multi-million-dollar budget all the time. I raise money, help make decisions on where to allocate that money, and make sure that the money gets the right department. I listen to my residents to make sure the priorities I'm setting reflects their needs, and I think that's what the city needs. I have worked with a lot of different departments in my organization and the organizations I have worked with, and they have a lot of ideas and how money should be spent. I'm used to interacting with competing interests. I can understand that. I look forward to continuing the work I do and take it to the city council. What I do is listen the need of and understand where we need the priority. I can effectively manage where the city spends their money. I think right now we shouldn't be cutting any budget except Minneapolis Police Department. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, sir. Now moving along to Mr. Palacios.
Thank you so much for this question. And with all due respect to my fellow candidate, AK, the only one is a very strong statement. And it sounds like there's a few of us who are more than adequate at working with budgets. I myself have served on the board of the Aliveness Project, which is a multi-million-dollar nonprofit, right? But I've also done smaller things like, hosted a rally for Black Trans Lives, which was just a few $100s. The point is that I've worked with different budgets and therefore can think about different ways to build and grow budgets. But ultimately what it comes down to is participatory budgeting. What does that mean? Centering the voice of the people of Ward 6 when we're making budget decisions. We need to know what the community wants as a priority and amplify that voice. We need to engage residents, because let me ask my fellow candidates, how many of you have been engaged in any budgeting decisions in the last 2 years? That's very few of us. And so we need to do a better job at doing outreach when it comes to the community. And of course, transparency. Transparency is of the utmost importance. If we don't have transparency, we can't move forward in a responsible way. Cutting 1/3 of this budget or focusing on mayoral power isn't going to save us. What's going to save us is making sure that we're going to the people and saying, what do you want? I will amplify that voice. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. And now moving along to Mr. Scheunemann.
Thank you for that question. And thank you, Alex. That was a great response too. So I want to highlight that. So like I said in a previous debate, I stated that fact about the Star Tribune reporting of the 156 million. And I said right then and there that those 40 should go from MPD, and that should be the first place where we should be taking cuts. So I feel like that is a great spot where we can do it from, and having experience with budgets, with my own small business, with corporate budgets, and with a budget of a major political party here in Minnesota being responsible in part of. So I do have that experience as well, and making sure that we do listen to the voters first, and not from developers, not from PACs that has agendas that may not be for the people. So hopefully that we can work together on that too. And just like what Commissioner Hassan said, yes, he has worked in budgets in the past, but that was also including cutting many services to kids in underprivileged neighborhoods. So making sure that those underprivileged neighborhoods do get a priority. So the North Side and Ward 6 with the small American community in Cedar Riverside, and throughout the Native American community too in Ward 6. Because again, we are on stolen land. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Scheunemann. Now I'm gonna hand it over to Ms. Shaie.
First of all, I wanted to acknowledge Alex's answer. Definitely, I support and acknowledge your answer. Throughout my adult life, I have had to manage staff and balance budgets as a small business owner. I was a founder of a nonprofit organization that's very successful. I manage as a commissioner of Neighborhood Community Engagement Commission, the One Minneapolis Fund, as well as the Governor's Juvenile Justice Advisory Council. Both Title V and Title II are the two things that I've worked. And, as a person that have been working with many agencies, the Department of Human Services, the Juvenile Justice Advisory Council, the City of Minneapolis Neighborhood Community Engagement Commission, that works with all 73 neighborhoods, as well as the Ummah Project. I have had the opportunity to work and learn many things when it comes to, budgeting. And so, I've learned ways to help shape a budget, prioritize for the Juvenile Justice Advisory Council. As a city council member, I will commit to prioritize the city's health and well-being of residents rather than prioritizing the needs of a private business agencies. So definitely that's something that I've worked with before and will continue to work on it in the future.
All right, thank you so much. And it looks like our candidate, Michael Dougherty, was able to join us. Sir, are you able to answer our final question regarding the city budget?
Thank you for allowing me in. And a quick shout to Tom. Thank you for getting me in. It's to my discredit that I had some difficulties here. But I did hear Alex answer this question. So it's kind of fitting that everybody's giving him compliments because it was a great way for me to ramp into this, not hearing it. But I'm understanding budget. I've never been involved in anything so macro. I thought it was 165 million, but I'm hearing $156 million shortfall.
Mm-hmm.
I've been running a business for the last 20 years that I would say hovers right around 1 million, sometimes just shy, many times just over. So this would be a ramp. That said, I would look real closely at different regulatory offices that aren't really cutting from some of the vital, as for example, what the mayor is proposing to cut. A real concrete example would be, just with my experience over the years, like the elevator division, things that aren't, I guess, into human services is what my concern is right now. So that would be one concrete example. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Dougherty. And I will hand it over to Mahmoud for the closing statements.
Thank you so very much, Cynthia Simba. We will now invite each one of you to give your closing remarks. Each one of you have 90 seconds. Please start with Mr. Awad.
So, I would honestly just wrap it up by saying that, what we have been hearing from the city council, the former council member, some even people that are, on the stage right now on the Zoom today. A lot of progressive talk, but no real progressive action. I'm deeply committed to really this whole issue of affordable housing and expanding public housing. We didn't really get to touch up on the 2040 comp plan, so I just want to say a little bit about that. It's a great plan in total and in general. It has a lot of great goals, but it just is not translating into law. A lot of the things that were in that comp plan translated into law for changing the city's zoning and land use laws, which is going to ultimately get more density. And there's a lot of candidates like AK and Jamal that said that, these are progressive ideas. They're really not. They're neoliberal policies, which is going to exacerbate gentrification. So what we really need to do is really get serious with candidates and people that are going to honestly go into city council and fight for the working class, not individuals or people that are going to be talking about progressive policies, but don't really understand what the plans are going to do. Because these plans, just like it has for the neighborhood in Harrison, where a Chicago developer came in and took a whole city block, displaced 20 family homes, and now those families are paying $600 and more in rent, which means that's cost burdensome. And that's really what the 24 comp plan does. I want to make sure there's real protections for that, and that means rent control. That means the tenant opportunity to purchase, which is going to allow, which includes single family homes. This means also getting a commercial rent control into place and making sure public housing is expanded. But if we're just going to do lip service for these things, we're not really going to change it. So remember, vote AJ, because he's competent enough to understand these issues and really passionate enough to really fight for you in City Hall. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I know I would like to move along with Mr. Bihi.
I'm not really here or on this platform just to get elected. I've been doing the work. It's not something I'm going to do about in the future only. I've been doing this work for the past 24 years. I've been also 95% for free and volunteering because of my passion of loving to impact people's life and also changing around me and the neighborhood and the community I live with. I never run. I never run from a challenge, and I'm here to face that challenge at the city level. Also, I serve a lot of boards that have impacted, whether it's arts boards like Cedar Cultural Center. I've served People Center Clinic on health. I've served a legal rights center. And in the beginning, when I moved here in the state, I used to live in Elliott. I served on the board of Cook Clinic and many others. I have served the community that I know what the needs are and what the issues are, but also I have the passion of learning from our Ward 6 residents. I would love to meet people and hold constant monthly or bi-weekly meetings with real people and learn from them. Gentrification is a big, huge problem. I also believe that homelessness shouldn't be happening in our city. We have the capacity by working with Hennepin County, by working with our state legislatures to create the funding for low income, not affordable housing. I think I'm no better than anybody person.
Thank you.
I am your guy to vote for me and go to bihi.com, BIHIE.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bihi. And I would like to move along with AK Hassan.
Well, thank you so much. Again, COVID-19 has exposed that our public systems are ill-equipped to protect renters, workers, and the unsheltered. The killing of George Floyd has showed that MBD is broken and need to be rebuilt with the strong community engagement that we've always been asking for and city action. We can do better for our vulnerable communities, and now is an opportunity to bring this more progressive agenda to the Minneapolis City Council by advocating for rent control, investments in public housing, advocating for our unsheltered homeless community, investment in the opioid response, which is killing so many kids in our community and Native Americans and people who live in Sixth Ward, and building real community safety. We'll work to deliver economic opportunity, health, and safety to all Ward 6 residents. I'm proud to have been endorsed by a Bernie Sanders organization, Our Revolution, who I supported, and Outfront Minnesota, the largest LGBTQ+ organization in the state. I'm endorsed by elected officials such as our Hennepin County Commissioner, Angela Conley, and many others for my strong progressive platform. I humbly ask for your support, and I humbly ask to speak with anyone who had more questions before August 11. My cell phone number is 612-986-6819. Again, that's 612-986-6819. You can also visit my website at akhassan.com to learn my issues.
Thank you, AK Hassan.
Thank you.
And I would like to let in next candidate, Nebiha Mohammed.
So what I do want to say here is the reason why I point to my education, and I've been talking about it in my experience, is that because my education has taught me to be able to work across the board, to be able to do the necessary research, to study the problem, identify solutions, and then implement it. I have led people. I currently lead people. I have a bold vision, I marshal the support, and I work towards winning. I want to thank my fellow candidates for acknowledging that housing is a human right. I'm glad others are following suit. I'm glad, AJ, that you said that about progressive, because where I come from in New York, I was a progressive Democrat before it was cool to be a progressive Democrat, before AOC. Overall, thank you. The job of the city council is a serious job. That is why I am passionate about budget, and you've seen that already. I have solutions. I've identified the problems. I found solutions. We need a serious person in this pivotal time in our city's history to lead us, not just but for the namesake, but to actually bring about real change for our people, because citizens of Ward 6 have historically been underrepresented, improperly funded, and we deserve our time now. We deserve it, and we need the funding for the programs that will help our children.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Mohammed.
Thank you.
And I would like to move along Mr. Suud.
This is the closing statement, right, Mahmoud?
You're correct. That is correct.
Yeah, people are still bragging about, something else, and I thought.
But what you want to say? Go ahead. It's your time.
Yeah.
Just what you want to say.
Yeah, as I said, I'm currently serving as an congressional district leader for the One Campaign, a global advocacy organization. And my fellow Ward 6 residents, I'm asking your vote, because I believe I have accomplished it in a short period of time. I was in the United States, the American dream. And my story is an American story. Since I arrived in this country, I've accomplished so much with the generosity of the American people and people like the residents of Ward 6. So that's why I'm asking your vote. Imagine what you and I can achieve in the next 4 years if you elect me in the city council. I overcome the challenge in the refugee camp in Kenya, coming to this country 8 years ago, started a new life, and now running for city council to make a difference in the lives of our people. With your support, I request kindly you vote for me so that we can get things done for our residents in this ward. If I have accomplished so much in those 8 years, I believe with your help, we can move forward and done more with this vibrant community to raise for our family, work and live here. And I believe that's why I'm asking your vote. I will be a voice for Ward 6 residents in the city hall. We have diverse residents in this ward, vibrant, and you imagine a small business.
Thank you, Mr. Olat.
I'm asking your vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and I would like to let in Mr. Osman.
Thank you. Again, my name is Jamal Osman, and I am someone who has tirelessly worked Ward 6 and better in residents' lives. We need to make sure we are putting the right person in the office, not someone who just moved in last week or last month, he say, like AJ. We want to make sure someone who's tirelessly working, protecting resident rights, educating our youth, doing the work that needs to be done. I see city council job as a resident advocate, and I've been doing that for 15 years. We want to make sure we are taking care of the residents. You have to know the residents, you have to know where they live, you have to know their struggle they go through, you have to know the challenges we have. The time today is very difficult, especially in Ward 6. The COVID-19 situation that happened, the homelessness, the youth mental health, I have experience working all those, bettering people's lives. I want to make sure that you make the right decision and vote someone who will represent you, someone that you know and that you see them every day on the national night outs, resident issue, and anything that happens in our community. Vote for Jamal Osman, and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, and I would like to let in Mr. Palacios.
Thank you so much, Mahmoud and Cindy and Mshale for hosting us today. The questions that you asked today are some of my favorite because what you've created here is a referendum on privilege, on racism, on implicit bias, and on elitism, okay? As well as transparency. I moved to Minneapolis 4 years ago, and I came here as somebody who had recently been diagnosed with HIV, somebody who was an addict, who was homeless. All of those things that I just mentioned were leveled against me. I didn't get out of that alone. It took community, it took people believing in me when I didn't believe in myself, and it took strong fighters, strong advocates for me. I know how to do that. I've seen it done, and it's impacted my own life. It is now time for me to fight for you. And that's exactly what I will do. I understand that community has to be central, which is why I want to make changes to the Neighborhoods 2020 plan, which is why I want to advocate for housing that keeps up with us and not the other way around, which is why I want to provide services that are culturally specific for HIV/AIDS, for mental health, for addiction, things that I know all too well. And finally, because of all that experience that is not just formal, but informal,
Thanks,
I am the best person to represent you. Thank you.
Thank you. And before I hand over to Cindy, I would like to welcome again Jodas Scheunemann.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you all the candidates for coming. I want to thank Mahmoud and Cindy and Tom for hosting this, and Mshale for hosting this. And I believe I'm the best candidate because I have the life experience and the dedication and the deep heart to help our community and build a stronger, better community here in Ward 6 and throughout all of Minneapolis. And I believe I'm a strong candidate because being a third party candidate will help, just like what our other Green Party City Council member Cam Gordon has been doing a great job, doing very great policies to help our community, and is doing it all grassroots and not dealing with having neoliberalism tagged to him. Because we Greens are for the people and not backed by any corporations and big money. We actually care about our people too. And so to learn more about my campaign and to join our fight and revolution, go to joshforward6.com to learn more. And I'd like to again thank everyone for watching and joining and participating tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. And Michael, do you hear me?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Yes. Proceed to the answer, please.
Okay. Again, thank you for allowing me to join. I don't think I'm being dramatic in echoing, and I think others have said this. Our city is in a crisis situation between COVID and then the tragedy of George Floyd's death. That was the last thing that we needed to have befall us. Obviously, right now, the hot topic is law enforcement. As my buzzword was in our last forum, we need to approach with pragmatism. I support our acting city council. I know they are well-intentioned. I feel that defunding the police, if I dare say reactionary, that's my concern. I really support that they made a meaningful change with the chokehold, for example. But I brought up a couple of points in our last forum that I feel are very pragmatic, common sense, measurable actions. I know it's one thing that separates me from most of these bright, beautiful candidates. If that's one thing that's built for me in just this last forum, is I see there's a lot of talent. And I even made the statement, and this is a time to beat this drum again, I would not seek this position again. So not only am I repeating that, but I can go into details on how I prove that. What I really want to do is continue a momentum in this crisis where there's opportunity from the George Floyd tragedy.
Thank you, Jadhas. And I would like to let in our last candidate, since this is the last question, before I hand it over to Cindy, Saciido Shaie.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you all this evening. I've always served my community, and when you work with the community the way I have, you are first to see all these issues and all these barriers that residents of Ward 6 face. You see the need in the community. And for the longest time, I tried to address these needs in the local level. I've served many boards and councils and commissioners, as well as forming a nonprofit organization working with the youth. But guess what? I keep hitting the walls every turn, and it soon made me realize that if I want to make change that I know Ward 6 community members need or deserve, I need to be at the decision-making table myself. This is what inspired me. I have spent years of my life fighting for this city, and as your council member, I will not stop fighting. As such, I ask for your vote. Please rank me as your first choice. For more information, go to www.saciido.com. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, and I would like to hand it over to Cindy Sim.
All right, thank you so much, Mahmoud. Candidates, on behalf of Mshale newspaper, we want to thank you for your participation this evening. We believe that it has been incredibly informative for Ward 6 voters and as well as our readers. And I would like to apologize for the technical difficulties experienced at the beginning of this live stream. The full video of the forum will be available tomorrow morning on our Facebook as well as our YouTube page. We want to wish you the best of luck to our candidates. And as a reminder, voting for the 6th Ward Special Edition is already, and the city is encouraging voters to vote by mail due to the coronavirus pandemic. And so you can request your ballot by July 31st, so you have ample time to mail it back or drop it off physically. We have provided the necessary links to the city elections website as well as the Secretary of State on Mshale.com. Thank you so much. And from all of us here at Mshale, we wish you all a great evening.